Good day, fellow champions of inclusion. I am Aaron, and this is the Inclusive Dad podcast, where we explore inclusion and make it practical. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me in exploring ways we can create a more inclusive world together. You are important, you matter, and you can make a difference. Today, my guest is Amy Shannon. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah. Why don't you just start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
So I am a quadriplegic. I use a wheelchair and have personal care assistants to help me with my daily life so that I can have a full life and experience everything that I want to experience. I was injured in an accident in 1989. It was 12 days before my 13th birthday. It changed everything. And inclusion is really important to me because after that, there were so many limitations and people didn't really know anything about disabilities and inclusion. And so it's been, it'll be 37 years since I was injured in June. And I'm just starting to get to do some things that I've always wanted to do because of adaptability and inclusion and the ADA and things like that. So I'm really excited to talk to you about that and also to hopefully talk a little bit about um, a kind of revolution I want to start for caregiving called life care because I feel like that's an area where people need to be more included into their own care and change the system because that's been really difficult for a lot of people, depending on other people.
Thank you for sharing that. So you said 13, so we're almost the same age. I was born in 77, so if I did my math, I think we're close.
Yep, I was born in '76.
Awesome. So, have you lived, I know we talked before we started recording that you live in Pittsburgh. Is that where you've lived your whole life, or have you lived in other places?
Well, I lived in Alabama for a year, and then I went to college at Kent, Ohio, and lived there for 4 years, but for all the rest of my life, I've been outside of Pittsburgh. You know, I lived inside in Pittsburgh for a long time when I went to, get my master's degree there, but, um, my parents and my family live in Cecil, which is about 40 minutes south of Pittsburgh.
So yeah, you said you were 13 when you had the accident. Do you wanna, I mean, I don't, however much detail you wanna share, but I'm curious, like, being 13, having that accident, I mean, how was school for you, like, before and after? Guessing there was quite a difference between your school life before that and after?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a big important part of growing up and becoming independent, so I was just starting to do things like go to the mall and hang out with my friends and, go to friends' houses and do things with their families and not, you know, be so close with my family and doing things, close to home. And then all of a sudden, I became completely dependent on my parents, and that was really, really hard because, like, a lot of my friends wanted to come see me when I was in the rehabilitation hospital, but it was an hour away, so, like, my mom would wanna bring people, but they wouldn't stay long, there wasn't a lot to do, and then she'd leave, and I'd always be like, "No, don't bring anyone," because then she could stay longer and be there to help me, and, um, I didn't get a lot of rehab. I was a child in an adult rehab center, and I don't know if they just didn't know as much back then about, recovery and spinal cord injuries, but I wasn't getting schooling in the rehab
Right.
hospital, and I didn't feel like I was gaining a lot of movement. I didn't really understand anything about the body or the spinal cord, so I ended up leaving and going back to school, and the school was really inclusive and great about a lot of things for me. They wanted to make sure that I could, like, get throughout the building and, have the help that I needed, and I was in a manual chair for the first year, even though I couldn't, like, push it or anything, so they had an aid for me, and they didn't want my friends to be doing everything for me, like pushing me to classes and stuff like that, but, my parents were really pushing for me to be able to sit with my friends at lunch and, like, do normal things, but it just wasn't, you know I wasn't able to participate in everything like I would've, so I felt like it was hard to connect with people and make friends afterwards, like, people didn't really understand what I was going through, and they were moving on with, their lives and going and meeting a lot of other people and getting involved in
Mhm.
extracurricular activities, and I missed out on a lot of the, like, normal development stages, like, um, going on a date or, like, driving or just, like, the independent stuff. And, like, even though the school did the best that they could, it wasn't really accessible, so I wasn't necessarily sitting with all my friends at the gym. I really didn't know how to do a lot for myself at that point, so I didn't really even try to, like, go out for the school play or anything like that because it was just like, I didn't think that I'd be able to do it. And the school, wasn't really, like, used to having a lot of people with disabilities and in wheelchairs, so they weren't like, "Yeah, let's have you do this or do that." Like, they would try to have me participate in gym. They would be like, "Okay, you need to do work and do, like, activities while you're in your gym class," but it was always a little bit segregated because I would be in this closet like, with another student helping me to do what I could while everyone else is playing volleyball or in the, weight room doing, that stuff. So, wasn't quite inclusive even though, they were doing the best they could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, my daughter, she has cerebral palsy and epilepsy, and she uses a wheelchair. So it's a lot of that stuff you're talking about is stuff that we've come across. You go to, I mean, remember grade school going to like Christmas concert, and she's off to the side of the, risers, not by her class, and it's like, okay, like, can you just you can rearrange it differently to have her class near her at least? But it's just they try, like you said, they tried their best. It's just I think she might have been one of the first people with a wheelchair, and that's just so you try to give people grace and work with them. But yeah, a lot of that stuff sounded familiar to me for my daughter having you know then they also felt like she was super fragile, so they wanted to keep her safe, so gym class is like, "Yeah, we wanna keep her safe, we don't want her to get hit in the head with a ball." It's like, I mean, when I was a kid, we'd go outside and we'd fall and I mean, that's how you learn not to do something. You fell hit your leg or you had jumped your bike and did something and then you got hurt, and it's like, "Okay, I'm not doing that again." So, I understand wanting to protect her, but also it's like, I mean, some of the stuff is just you kinda have you kinda have to do that, so it's interesting.
And we have to try things too.
Yep. For sure. Absolutely. What is your definition of inclusion?
It's really about being understood and accepted and having a sense of belonging. I think, the hardest part of my accident and the disability was the emotional aspect of feeling like an outsider or feeling like I didn't know how to belong or how to relate to other people because when you have a disability, like people need to come into your world. You can't really go into theirs. And so um that's where like caregiving is a really difficult thing for me because no one talks about the person receiving care. It's all about the person who's taking care. And I don't want to be taken care of. I can think and make decisions and I can't execute tasks, but I know what I want or I know I can figure out how I want someone to wash my face and like be in charge and not just feel like everything's out of my control. So I want to be able to participate in all aspects of my life and be in charge um and determine if it's inclusive. I don't want someone else telling me, you know, well, we're including you because we're inviting you to a place that has steps that, isn't accessible.
That is interesting because yeah, I mean, me and my daughter, like I said, is in a wheelchair, so it's like, yeah, you get invited to a birthday party or some kind of function, and it's like, yeah, it's in a place where there's not a ramp. It's like, well, I mean, that's not, yeah, you're inviting us, but we can't come. So are you really inviting us?
It doesn't feel very welcoming.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm curious about the caregiving parts. Yeah, that's interesting. So can you maybe explain like how, so yeah, I have to do some caregiving stuff for my daughters, and I guess I have, as you're talking, I'm thinking I haven't done a lot of like asking her how she wants me to provide the caregiving. So can you maybe explain a little bit about how it, like caregiving or you receiving care like normally works and what your vision is or how you want to change that, for people?
So, I mean, I was young and they taught my parents how to take care of me. And then, like, I went home and my mom was busy. I have an older sister and a younger sister. My parents were separated at the time. They eventually got back together, but there was, a time frame where she was working full time and, um, not really able to be there for my sisters and I the way that we all needed because I needed so much care and she was helping me and they were wanting her and she was going out there and then I wasn't getting, what I needed and I wasn't really taught how to communicate or direct my care and she was saying, I'm the one doing it, so it has to work for me. And then I graduated high school and I went to Kent State University for college. And I just assumed that people were gonna know how to take care of me because no one had told me that I was gonna be responsible for that. But it was exhausting. It was, like, so much work to schedule and train and coordinate and go to class and socialize and do everything. So once I graduated, I was like, "There has to be a better way. Going home and going into the community has to be better because, there won't be so much turnover since students' classes are changing and everything." And that was a wake-up call because it wasn't better. People don't know how to, help with someone with a spinal cord injury. Things are a lot different for me, and so I started having my mom help me train people, but it was really hard to find people who would actually stay and learn. They would sit there and, watch and then think that my mom was just gonna do the work and not realize, "No, you're here to learn." People do need a lot of skills, and then I get a lot of people who say, "Oh, I don't I don't work in healthcare," or I work in health," like, and it's not even healthcare. And so I came up with the term life care. It's not healthcare because healthcare is for sick and dying people who aren't trying to live their life. Life care is for the living, and life care encompasses everything because some of the things that I need are considered medical. So I don't feel like getting dressed, like putting on pants is not medical. That's fashion, that's beauty. And part of what I need is someone to do my hair and my makeup. And I need someone who can um communicate with me and follow directions and learn how to be in partnership with me. And it takes a long time, it takes a lot of work, and the turnover because of the pay with caregiving.
That makes a lot of sense to me because my daughter, she's assessed at like needing like a nursing home level of care, and she lives with her mom and then comes over here a couple nights a week. But we live in rural Minnesota, so it's hard to find people. And like you're saying, I mean, that doesn't pay much, so it's hard to keep them around. And so it, for long, most of her life it's been her mom and I, doing that stuff, but it's interesting. I came across, I think it was a news article where there was a guy who was arrested, or father who was arrested by ICE in the last 6 months, and he was like a full-time caregiver for his son, and I don't remember what the son had, but they detained the father, and he was the only person that kind of knew how to take care of his son. Like he was the full-time caregiver, and uh, described how the family was not, they didn't know, like the dad was the one that knew all the doctor stuff, knew what meds, if the son was getting like a stuffy nose, he knew what to give him to take care of him, and all that information and knowledge resided just in him, and he was not there. So the son ended up, it's very sad, he ended up passing away. But just, that piece of it, like do you like write down all this, like all the stuff that people need to do to take to care for you and stuff, so it's there if somebody else needs to learn it, or how do you pass on that knowledge and information?
I mean, that's so hard. That's a huge one of the huge gaps because I never wanted to have it all written down because I felt like that took the control away from me. That is the system of how things are in the hospital, that they chart everything and then the, um, the nurses are reading all the charts, and then it doesn't include the patient. I don't want my caregivers to update my parents. I'm the chart. I'm the one who needs to be updated, and so I need to be able to do all of that, but I need help to do it, and so, um, I have a lot of anxiety about that. It worries me a lot that when my parents are around, what's gonna happen because I'm at a nursing level of care too, nursing home level, and I don't wanna end up in a nursing home. They're saying that that's the level of care that we need, but they're not providing it in the home. But no one's come up with a new system. No one's said, you know, "We need to figure out how to serve people to the best of their ability in their homes," and so I have an idea of trying to create a training program for people with disabilities to learn to be empowered, but because my idea for, like, caregivers and setting up that system, if the people receiving care aren't able to be empowered to take control, then you're not gonna be able to manage the caregivers.
And there's so much of the system is how the payments, like how the payment stuff is tied to it, so you can't. I mean, I do some adult mental health stuff, DBT groups for my day job, and it's just like it gets frustrating. Like you have to provide the care this way to be so you get billed, and it's like you can't like truly, in my opinion, sometimes give the person what they need because you don't get paid for it. So then you're trying to figure out like add more services, and it gets complicated how the payment's tied to certain things, and like you're saying, it's more like it's not doesn't seem to be lined up for providing care in the home as much, and it's frustrating.
Well, so much of the care being provided home is landing on the family members, and, like, for me, my parents are in their late 70s, and they're still helping me, and they're not gonna live as long as I am, and my sisters aren't gonna help me, and the program isn't set up, the caregivers aren't gonna be taking that much responsibility, and I'm really fearful for what will happen in the future because I can't do it by myself. I my independence depends on the people that are helping me. There is a lot of responsibility and, um, people receiving care, it's very, very uncomfortable to depend on people and to receive care. Like, everyone's washing my face differently, and they're coming at me, and I feel violated and completely helpless. Things that I don't like feeling is just terrible. And I don't like anyone to touch me, and I think there are solutions for all of these, but it really comes down to the system that needs to change.
Yeah, for sure. What is one tip you can share to help the listeners be more inclusive today? So just something everybody can start doing today to be more inclusive.
Like I said before, people need to be curious about what my needs are, what works for me, how things work for me. There has to be accommodations. Like even just wanting to go to a movie. I have people that will have to come drive to my house, pick me up, drive my van, drive me to the movie. It takes a lot more time so that, even if I have someone drop me off somewhere, I don't want to have like my mom or dad or my caregiver with me all the time because I can be more independent if I can rely on other people around me. But it's hard for me to ask for help sometimes when I'm not sure if someone's comfortable. I don't want to feel like a burden or make someone feel like, they're stuck with me.
Yeah, it is interesting how much more planning it takes, to go out with my daughter. We like going to concerts, and when my girlfriend and I go to a concert, I mean, we just, show up, park in a normal parking spot, walk in, don't have to worry about the bag stuff usually. But then if we take my daughter, it's like you got to find the handicap parking. She has like rescue meds for seizures and some, but she has meds for meals. We got to bring that in, but can we pass it with the bag policy? So I always call ahead and like, hey, this is a situation, like she's bringing this stuff in, like, is that okay? Because I don't want to show up and like, hey, you can't bring this in or something. So it's just all this other stuff that we have to do, which I'm okay with because she loves music and it's fun. It's just when you step back and looking like, man, there's so much more stuff bringing her to a concert. It's just interesting. Like you don't even think about that unless you're in that situation. But it's yeah, and it's hard to. She wanted to go to one concert, and and the other thing is buying the tickets. Like sometimes they sell the companion seat with the handicap accessible seat, and sometimes they don't. So I always call and the last one was like, "Hey, I'm buying this seat." I'm like, "How many do I need to buy?" I was like, "Well, yeah, there's not gonna be enough there. You can just buy a ticket anywhere in the stadium and just be with her." I'm like, "Is the person, like, standing there, like, watching this? Are you gonna allow that day? Because well, I can't guarantee that." I'm like, "Well, then I'm not buying the ticket 'cause I the person to be like, 'Hey, you can't stand here by your daughter because your ticket's over across the arena.'" So it's just those little things that you don't think about sometimes that make stuff much more complicated.
Who wants to go to an event and sit there by themselves whether other people are
Right.
in a different area? Like, no, that's not inclusive because that's not allowing people to participate together. I don't want to be
Yeah.
with a bunch of strangers. I want to be with the people I'm going with.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then he couldn't guarantee that I could sit there with him that night. I'm like, well, I'm not buying $100 some ticket, and then I can't even be with him. Like, I need to be there to help her out with if she needs stuff. So it's like that. Yeah, we're not going. So
And I hate
it's
when
yeah,
they make the handicap section that it's not like really with everyone else. It's a little bit separate. Like they a lot of times they'll make like one big area that's all open, and then my person that comes with me just gets like a folding chair to sit next to me and
yep,
stuff like that. And I'm like, "Ugh, that doesn't feel the same as what everyone else gets."
yeah. The
I think
last
a
big,
lot of times
but
that architects do their best and then kind of miss the mark, or people think that, this makes sense, but what makes sense to someone with a disability and someone without a disability is not the same thing. So I wish that they would have to have input from someone with a disability for anything accessibility and ADA when they're building.
yeah, for sure. It's like the last concert I went to was a Post Malone Jelly Roll concert at US Bank Stadium, which is the professional football team stadium. So it's huge, and we get there and we show the people the ticket and you gotta use the elevator but there's not a lot of elevators. Like they put the minimum up. I think they need to, but they weren't marked very well. So trying to find the elevator was tough. And then you get to the elevator and show them the ticket and they're like, I have no idea where that's at. And it's like, how am I supposed to know where it is? Like, is that your job to like run the elevator and get us we need to go? And then there's like so many people. My daughter got overwhelmed and then we get there and some other people have been sold tickets to another ADA section, but then they went to their seats and got kicked out saying that Ticketmaster sold them and they shouldn't have, so they came over to our spot. So there was all these extra people, so I'm like, "Okay, as long as my daughter can sit here and she can see the music, she was fine," but it's like, it was like, this should not have been this complicated, like, why not it's an ADA ticket, throw in the email to me like, "Hey, here's exactly your path you need to take from this parking ramp to get there." It's like one simple thing like that would have been, just so easy, I feel like. So yeah, I agree with you. They need to she was fried, I was fried, and I was like, "Man, I paid a lot for this ticket. Like, please have fun, because just listen to the music. Like, just get there."
Yeah, and people don't know, but they don't know that they don't know.
Right. So yeah, it was frustrating. But like I said, we got her in this position and she started singing along. So I'm like, okay. Like, okay, Aaron, she's having fun. Just let all that crap go that it took to get here, and just she's enjoying it. That was the reason we came. So, but yeah, it's frustrating
Yeah, the world is not inclusive, and it could be so much more, but I just don't even know how to get people to do it.
for sure. Where's the best place for everybody to connect with you?
So I am on Instagram, and my name is Amy Beloved Turquoise. So if anyone wants to find out more, follow me there. It need to start posting more about, these ideas and stuff like that. I'm just kind of trying to talk about it to people and get my ideas out there and get some feedback and hopefully find more ways to get other people to think the same way so that we can get a group together and start talking about this to talk to politicians and agencies and things like that so that we can change the system. I think caregiving is the foundation for everything else in life. When you need a caregiver to do everything for you, like going to the bathroom, getting dressed, eating, driving places, it's going to affect whether you can work and socialize and get out of the house so you're not isolated. And there's a shortage of caregivers and there's so many gaps in care. It can take a long time, but we just got to start picking away one thing at a time and making some differences and getting people to understand that these things need to change. And hopefully we'll start getting the ball rolling and see a difference.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, it's important to have conversations like this, and thank you for all you're doing and bringing it up and starting the conversation. It's really important. And even, yeah, like you've brought up a lot of things for me when my daughter's supposed to come over tonight, and just how I try to respect like her wishes. It's hard, like sometimes it's like, okay, just do this at this time. It's more convenient, but like she's a person, so if she doesn't want to, like so I mean, it's yeah, but it's like, yeah, how do I, yeah, does she want to be her face washed this way, or I mean, I haven't really thought of that. So you brought up some things that got me thinking about how I can, help her in more way that she's directing it. So thank you.
I think that's great because eventually she's going to have to work with
Yeah,
other people. And this is a great place to start.
for
I'm
sure.
sure she's capable of doing it.
No, she's very capable of letting, like, if we're doing something wrong, she'll definitely tell us. So she can do that for sure. So yeah, absolutely. Are you ready for the last question?
Sure.
You like spam lunch meat? Yes or no?
I've never tried it.
Never tried it? Wow. So I live near Austin, Minnesota, where they make spam and where the spam museum is located. So I've been asking all my guests that question just to see how they react. So it's usually yes, a really quick yes or no, or I haven't had it. That's kind of the three options.
Yeah, I don't
But yeah.
know. I feel like it got a bad rap when I was a kid.
Yeah. I mean, I eat it maybe once or twice a year, like fry it up and have it with like pancakes or something. So, but it's not like a staple. But yeah, here and there, it's okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it that I'm glad we finally got to connect.
Yes, thank you for having me.
To those listening, thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. It is truly an honor. Please join the podcast newsletter by clicking on the link in the episode description to keep up with the latest episodes. Together, we can make the world more inclusive. Until next time, stay empowered and be a champion for inclusion.